Chapter 15. Out of Style.
Bob is sneering at my English tweed sport coat with the suede patches on the elbows. He says, "You know that jacket's been out of style for about a decade, don't you?" I answer him with the truth. "Yeah, Bob, I know it's out of style. That's why I wear it." Bob has known me for a long time, but he still hasn't figured out that out of style is my style. Style is the unmistakable mark of a follower, and those who are constrained by it are destined to be forever average. Followers always fear breaking the unwritten rules. Unwritten rules abound in the advertising business, and the foremost of these is never put the client in the ad. Any ad firm who puts the client in an ad is certain to be criticized as having done it, quote, only because the client likes to hear himself on the radio and see himself on TV. The people who voice these accusations the loudest, though, are the creators of those highly polished but horribly ineffective professional ads that win all the ad club awards. It's always been out of style for business owners to speak on behalf of their own companies, yet Harlan Sanders of Kentucky Fried Chicken, Lee Iacocca of Chrysler, Dave Thomas of Wendy's, and George Zimmer of Men's Warehouse achieved fantastic success as a direct result of their willingness to ignore the dictates of style. They were unwilling to follow the rules and create ads that were only average. There was something magical about Lee Iacocca facing the camera and saying to America, "If you can find a better car, buy it." His resolute audacity saved the jobs of tens of thousands of Chrysler employees. That same magic happens every time George Zimmer looks into the lens and says, "You're going to like the way you look, I guarantee it." How about you? Are you willing to look the world in the eye and tell your story with confidence? Do you fear what people will say if you become the spokesperson for your company? Yes, if you do it, I promise that you will be criticized. The average person will snicker and ridicule you behind your back. But then again, he's only average.
Good advertising is no guarantee of success, nor does bad advertising always mean failure. Chapter 16. You meet the most interesting people.
Hello. Up until I read The Wizard of Ads, the most defining moment in my life was when I stood on the summit of Alaska's Mount McKinley, the tallest mountain in North America. But now I had to add reading The Wizard of Ads. For a while I was involved with a full-blooded Ute Indian gal. Her natural beauty is so stunning that men don't just look at her, they stop what they're doing to look at her. Well, that's what I did when I got a copy of The Wizard of Ads. I stopped everything I was doing and read it cover to cover. And like reaching the summit of Mount McKinley, if you've never read The Wizard of Ads, you can't imagine it. But when you do, you'll never forget it. Sign me up for the Monday morning memo. Thanks, Jim Hubner.
Jim, wow, what can I say? Though we receive hundreds of letters and emails each month, I've never received one the equal of yours. I even hesitate to write you this note for fear that it won't live up to your expectations. By the way, what the heck were you doing on top of Mount McKinley? Roy H. Williams.
Howdy there, Roy. You asked me what I was doing on top of Mount McKinley. Well, I was 50 years old, and I was finding out and accepting the truth about myself. FYI, here are Jim's 6 rules of mountaineering, and I think they could also apply to advertising. Number 1, climb with passion. Number 2, no guts, no glory. Number 3, expect dead ends. Number 4, never turn your back on your partner. Number 5, never look where you don't want to go. And number 6, there's always room on the rope for a person with honor. What attracts me to mountaineering is that it's very simple. You either live or you die. No timeout, no substitutions, no halftime, no 2-minute warning. And the mountain doesn't care what kind of car you drive, what kind of watch you wear, what college you went to, or how much money you make. Mountaineering is a very in-the-moment experience. And it's one of only 2 things I found in my life where, on a consistent basis, doing it is far more exciting than the anticipation of doing it. What do you think the other one is? Most people say sex. No, it's not sex. Remember, I said on a consistent basis. The second is speed, going fast. You can never anticipate the feeling of speed. Roy, be good to yourself. Jim.
There is a fine line between bravery and stupidity. If you get away with it, you are brave. If you don't, you are stupid. Francisco T. Escario. Chapter 17. The Wizard Who Got Away.
After speaking to a rapt audience for nearly an hour, Frank smiles and says, "Thank you for letting me be with—" But the rest of his words are drowned in thunderous applause as his listeners leap to their feet in ovation. Stepping back from the lectern, Frank smiles and mutters, "Thank you, thank you." Then he sees a hand raised at the back of the room. "Yes? Do you have a question?" A distinguished gentleman steps into the aisle, and the crowded room grows quiet. With one eyebrow arched imperiously, he scans the room, then looks at Frank and says, "Although I appreciate the personal philosophies you've shared with us this afternoon, certainly a man in your profession must recognize the value of solid facts and hard science." Pausing to let the full impact of his statement ripple across the room, the man delivers a second stinging jab. "Why has no reputable university embraced your theories?" After another brief pause, "Why haven't you been asked to speak at Harvard?" Smiling, Frank replies instantly, "Harvard? Harvard takes perfectly good plums as students and turns them into prunes." Bursts of stifled laughter break out across the room. The man in the aisle retorts, "But the facts! You speak as though there were things more important than the facts." With a smile more sympathetic than mocking, Frank gazes at the man as though the two of them were the only ones in the room, and he quietly says, "The truth is more important than the facts." I have been told the applause still echoes in that room. Frank's instinctive grasp of complex relationships and his unique ability to find beauty in even the most ordinary places would have made him one of the greatest ad writers of all time. But Frank Lloyd Wright was not energized by the music of words. His artistic rhythm pulsed to the beat of concrete and steel. "Every great architect is, necessarily, a great poet," he said. "He must be a great original interpreter of his time, his day, his age." Like every great ad writer, Frank shunned one-size-fits-all solutions and steadfastly refused to begin his building's design until he had first explored the building site and met the people who would occupy it. Had he chosen to become a writer instead of an architect, I feel certain that his ad campaigns would have been as uniquely tailored as his buildings. And I believe that he would have moved us with ads we did not even recognize to be ads. Frank also seems to have had an intuitive understanding of the 9 secret words.
"The risk of insult is the price of clarity."
Early in life, he says, I had to choose between honest arrogance and hypocritical humility. I chose honest arrogance and have seen no occasion to change. Though he never penned a single word of advertising, Frank Lloyd Wright remains a legend among the wizards of ads who know him simply as the one who got away.
No house should ever be on any hill or on anything. It should be of the hill, belonging to it, so hill and house could live together, each the happier for the other. Frank Lloyd Wright. Part the second, Room with a View, in which the wizard explains the functions of the brain and the power of imagination. Chapter 18, Living with Tarzan in the Jungle.
If the ratio of sensory receptors to brain synapses is any indication, then you and I are comparatively ill-equipped to experience a material world. Though our 100 million sensory receptors allow us to see, hear, feel, taste, and smell the real world, our 10,000 billion brain synapses allow us to relate new data to stored memories and ideas, to experience things that never happened. Yes, reality is a fragile thing. We're much better equipped for experiences that are contained fully in the mind. We have lived with Tarzan in the jungle, journeyed beneath the sea with Captain Nemo, been stranded on an island with Robinson Crusoe, and sailed with a peg-legged man named Ahab as he pursued a great white whale. If these experiences were the only evidence of our amazing abilities, they would surely be enough. But wait, there's more. A teenage prodigy named Ludwig van Beethoven met the great Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart just a few years before Mozart died. Not yet old enough to shave, Beethoven was already swimming in fame and recognition. His compositions were solicited by publishers before they were even finished. Yet, in less than a decade, young Beethoven was struggling with thoughts of suicide. Our young musical genius had begun to lose his hearing. Beethoven chose to live, however, and to continue his work as a composer, though as he became increasingly deaf, his works became more difficult to understand. It was during his years of total deafness that he answered a critic by saying, "They are not for you, but for a later age." Had Beethoven been able only to maintain the quality of his compositions during his years of total deafness, most people would have considered it an amazing feat. Yet Beethoven did not merely equal his earlier compositions, he greatly surpassed them. The complex and magical things he wrote while living in a world of utter silence are generally considered to be his greatest masterpieces. Ludwig van Beethoven was capable of hearing music in a silent world. But his ability to hear symphonies in his head was nothing special. Beethoven's brain was no more capable than those of the people with whom you deal every day. Physiologically, each of us is Beethoven's equal. You can hear Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in your mind right now if you'd like. Remember how it begins? Just like you and me and Ludwig, your customers have the amazing ability to see with their eyes closed and to hear when there is no sound. They can touch what isn't there and taste what they have not yet eaten. In your advertising, don't speak to the world outside your customers. Speak to the world inside their minds. Give them a taste of the experience you have waiting for them in this meeting place we call reality.
Engage the imagination. Then take it where you will. Where the mind has repeatedly journeyed, the body will surely follow. People go only to places they have already been in their minds. The wizard's seventh law of the advertising universe.